Tomorrow marks 3 years since the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Both the Republican and Democratic parties have taken action to make the public aware of the impacts that day had on our nation's democracy.
President Biden arrived in Valley Forge on the eve of the historic event to address the nation. Political reporter Darielle Fair spoke with Wisconsin's Democratic Lieutenant Governor, who's currently in Washington. She has the latest on new developments taking place.
Within the last 2 hours, the U.S. Supreme Court announced it will consider a decision by the Colorado Supreme Court that barred former President Donald Trump from the state's Republican primary ballot. This comes on the eve of the January 6th insurrection, a horrific day for those watching, as a mob of far-right conservatives stormed the nation's capital, motivated by claims that the 2020 election had been stolen and that former President Donald Trump had been fraudulently held from taking office. Evidence released after the incident would later reveal that to be false, serving as the catalyst into an investigation alleging Trump incited the insurrection. With this being the first election since the event took place 3 years ago, I asked Lieutenant Governor Rodriguez her thoughts on whether we could see a similar situation like this happen again if the results on election night did not favor the Republican Party.
May lie again and say that it was stolen. But we know that our elections are free and clear and safe, and we have done all of the things we need to do in Wisconsin to make sure that people can vote and that their vote is counted.
The court released an order on Friday confirming oral arguments are set for February 8th, indicating that a decision would come shortly after. Prior to the Supreme Court's announcement, the Republican National Committee and the National Republican Congressional Committee jointly filed an amicus brief with the U.S. Supreme Court to keep Trump's name on the ballot in Colorado, arguing states taking action to decide national candidates' qualifications did not have the congressional authority to do so. Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel said in a statement the American people have the right to choose their president, going on to say that efforts to remove Trump from the presidential ballot are an attack on the nation's electoral system. Depending on how the Supreme Court rules, this would not only determine whether Trump remains on the ballot in Colorado, it will also have greater impacts on the 2024 presidential election.
All right, Darielle, thank you. Well, since the January 6th insurrection 3 years ago, federal prosecutors filed charges against more than 1,100 people. About 750 of them have been convicted and sentenced, most receiving time behind bars. At least 9 people who were arrested in Wisconsin have been charged. Records from the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. show 6 of them were sentenced. Most received probation, community service, and restitution.